We are joined by driver the number 14 Stewart-Haas Ford Mustang Dark Horse, and this week sponsored by Mahindra Tractors. Chase Briscoe joining us as we head to Iowa Speedway for the first time for the Cup drivers, but it's not that unfamiliar. A lot of these guys have had experience in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, and Chase, you're actually the last driver to win a race at Iowa, having won the last Xfinity race there in 2019. Just what are your thoughts headed back there this weekend on the Cup side?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Every week, we typically have meet and greets and stuff with sponsors, and there's always the question of what's your favorite racetrack, and it's always, well, Iowa. And I'd always say we don't go there in the Cup Series, but it's Iowa Speedway, and now we finally get to go there in the Cup Series. So yeah, I'm super excited. Truthfully, I'm not as excited as I probably would have been if they didn't repave it. Because it is going to be a totally different racetrack. I think just going there now with the repave, but I think it still is going to have some of those same Iowa characteristics, but certainly I was pretty bummed when I saw that they repaved it, just knowing, kind of my past history there, just the love that I had for that place and that racetrack. It just has always really suited kind of my driving style for whatever reason. So yeah, super excited though to go, and yeah, just looking forward to it.
All right, let's head to our Q&A session here. We got some hands raised. Let's kick it off with Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
We won't talk about Buc-ee's. And I would have texted you, but I guess I didn't make the cut when you moved over to the new phone. But anyway,
I've got to send a ton of people still.
Anyway, on a serious kind of note, I don't want to drag it down, but when you got the news about Stewart-Haas, I mean, it sucks. I know it was your dream to be there and stuff. I'm just kind of curious, and I'm looking for the business aspect of it. How does that work from a driver's standpoint? Because I mean, like when I get laid off from jobs, and I've been laid off from plenty, you start shotgunning resumes out and you start working within your network. How does that work for a driver? I mean, are you waiting for phone calls? Does your agent take care of that stuff? How does it work in terms of starting to search for that next opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been no different than what you were saying, right? Just everybody I know kind of reaching out, telling them that I was available. I think that was the big thing is, up until SHR told us what was happening, 2 weeks ago now, I wasn't allowed to go talk to other people, because we didn't know if it was still going to be one charter or two, or, obviously ended up being all four, but, I didn't know what the cards were going to be yet. So that was the first thing I actually asked when Tony set all the drivers down. He said, do you guys have any questions? I said, yeah, what does this mean for us as far as being able to talk to other teams? And he said, you guys are free to do whatever you want. So literally while I was sitting in the room, I started texting different people, just letting them know that, hey, I'm going to be available and I need to try to find something. So yeah, it's really no different. I think you just still are trying to put yourself out there and let people know that you're available, and go talk to them and meet them and do whatever you have to do. And then, also try to obviously perform on the racetrack and show your worth. And I definitely think that this is one of the more, unique and just interesting silly seasons. And the fact that there is so many drivers, we've never really been in a situation where there's this many drivers that are already in the Cup Series looking for a job. But then also you have the normal, Xfinity and truck guys trying to move up too. So, just trying to make sure that I'm not left out. I don't have anything to fall back on. I'm not like some of the other people where, they have a family business or something like that. And, with a 2.5-year-old, a wife, and then twins on the way, I definitely can't afford to be left out and not have anything. So I've just been really trying to do everything I can to, put my best effort forward on the racetrack and obviously off the racetrack too. And just trying to, prove my worth to whoever may be out there looking.
How about your partners? Have you had any commitments from them, or did you have to go to them, or is any of them committed to you so far to help you find that next opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, there's not been anything, on paper signed, but, I think all of them have been pretty happy with, the relationship we've been able to build over the last couple of years. So, all of them were definitely willing to talk to whoever, it ended up going to wherever I end up. But yeah, I don't think there's definitely, I know for a fact there's not any commitment on paper. And even that was one thing I would say that Mahindra was pretty adamant about is that when I started this whole process, they were obviously one of the first people I called, and they made it pretty clear that they don't want to be the main topic of discussion. They want a team to hire me for me and not because of who I can bring. And even from their side, they felt like it was better for them when they do go back and try to sell it to, the high ups, if a team comes to me and says, hey, we want Chase for Chase and not because of Mahindra Tractors or highpoint.com or whatever, it was easier for them to internally sell it as well. So yeah, nothing on paper, but I am pretty confident that, I have a great enough relationship with, the Mahindra Tractors and highpoint.com and all these people that, whatever I end up finding and landing, I'm sure that there's going to be discussions there, but yeah, nothing really on paper by any means as far as that stuff goes.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And I'm excited for your next chapter.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Let's go to Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Chase, sort of like following up on Greg's question, what would you say your experience at SHR had? What have you taken from it that will help you prepare for whatever the next opportunity is? I mean, you obviously have gotten the opportunity to work at a top level, one of the largest current organizations, having that experience of working with people like Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick. Just what do you think you'll take from SHR wherever you end up going?
Yeah, I would say, one thing that kind of stands out more than anything is just, being able to, I've been at Stewart-Haas through different times of, life for Stewart-Haas, right? I was here in 18, 19, 20 when everything was going great. Seemed like we couldn't lose races if we even tried. And now I've been on the other side of it, 21, 22, 23, and now where, we're on the opposite side of the hill, so to speak, when it comes to, just the momentum and the performance side. So, I think just being able to, wherever I go, I've been able to kind of go through adversity, and I've kind of seen both sides of why it's been successful when it's been successful. And, when it's on the other side of things, kind of understanding different areas that need to be pushed and how to push those areas. And, from a communication standpoint, literally everything from top to bottom. So I think that's one thing that no matter where I go, whether it's a team ready to win or a team that's kind of on the other end of it, I have experience at kind of all those structures of life, I guess, from a race team standpoint, where some people, they've never been able to experience one or the other. So, that is the one thing I think that, as unfortunate as it's been to struggle the last couple of years, I do think it makes you kind of want it a little bit more, and just, it makes you hungry, especially whenever you've been able to feel what the other side feels like, and the Xfinity stuff, all the wins we were able to do. And even in 2022, the first year next gen, going to the round of 8, winning at Phoenix, I've got to know, and I know what that feels like. And, being able to kind of go through this downtime over the last, 2 years, I think has been honestly a good process for me, even just personally, just understanding that side. And, it's truthfully something I never really experienced in my career before, and was something that I felt like has probably made me stronger as a race car driver, just understanding how to, maximize days when your car is not good, and just all the things that kind of come along with that.
And you kind of touched on performance. It seems like you kind of have, you guys that are there kind of have like this tightrope to walk to the end of the season. You obviously want to do as well as you possibly can, both for Stewart-Haas Racing, but also for whatever potential new opportunities you have. But also there are like hundreds of employees there who have an uncertain future, and you got to have good people around you to keep having those good performances. Yeah. So when we were talking to Josh Berry last week at the production facility, he said like getting people to stay was probably the biggest hurdle. And I just wondered for you, like, how do you look at that? Do you look at the next several months? Is it going to be, do you feel like you will have what you need to accomplish good things? Or do you think it's going to be like a week to week sort of battle to see who's still there and who isn't? You can't really blame people, right, if they end up.
No, you can't blame them at all. It's a situation they were put in, so you can't blame them at all. And I've even said that the last 2 weeks in the media stuff. Just we truthfully, I would be lying if I said we're not at a disadvantage when we show up at the racetrack. Every other team that we're racing against, all they focus on week in and week out is how to make their race car go fast that weekend. And in our place, we're trying to figure out how we're going to provide for our families next year, where we're going to work next year. And on top of all of that, how am I going to get a fast race car to the racetrack? So yeah, it's 100%. It's a real thing. And, I would say that it's going to go in kind of ups and flows. I think these first 3 to 4 weeks post the time we got told will be telling, because I think, people are like, I know every single guy on my team right now is taking interviews. So, I think that it'll be hot and heavy these first 3 or 4 weeks. And then I think if we can survive, that 4 or 5, week stretch, I think if they stay those first 5 weeks after, then they're probably in it for the long haul. But then I think towards the end of the season, it's going to kind of ramp back up, and guys are going to be trying to make sure they have something. So I would be lying if I said it wasn't a concern that I do think it's going to be really hard for us to potentially get cars to the racetrack how we want to, just from a people standpoint. Just literally, I was over in the shop, an hour ago, and one of the guys told me this is his last week. He's going to work somewhere else. So, yeah, I mean, it's real. It's 100% real. But I do think, as far as the road crew guys go, I'm pretty confident that all of them are committed for the long haul. And we're a pretty tight knit group. We've been together for 4 years, just working on, with me. But even before that, they were with Clint, and I would say they're easily top 3 group in the garage. So I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to stick it out. But the shop guys and stuff like that, it's going to be a challenge for sure.
And is there just like let's prove them wrong? Just in the end, will success still help your situation? Just like it kind of every
100%. I mean, that's what I told our guys when all this went down. I said, look, at the end of the day, we can pout and whine about it, but the circumstances aren't going to change, and all that we can do is, control what we can control. And I can assure you guys that if we're winning races and running up front, it's going to be way easier for us to find a job than the guys that aren't winning races and running up front. So that's kind of what we've been trying to focus on. And, truthfully, the last 5 or 6 weeks has been a struggle for us, but hopefully we can turn that around these next couple of weeks and kind of get back on track.
Thanks a lot, Chase. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Go to Stuart Weber. Hello, Stuart.
Hello. Hey, Chase.
Hey,
Can you speak to just kind of how your relationship has evolved over the course of the season with Ryan, Josh, and Noah? I mean, you guys start out as teammates with 2 guys jumping into the team for a first year, and now you all find yourself in a very unique position, but you're all kind of in that same unique position.
Yeah, it is. It is unique, to say the least. Yeah, I think that it's been truthfully probably the most fun I've ever had at Stewart-Haas this year, just with how well the teammates get along. And, in the past, I got along really good with Eric and Kevin and, Cole, but it's just been a different, camaraderie, I would say, amongst the 4 of us. Up till the announcement, we've worked so well together and really tried to bounce things off of each other and just tried to help each other out. And I think we still are doing that, but I would say, at the same time, we all know what's happening, right? Like, we're all 4 of us are competing for the same jobs. And so I think we still want to help each other out, but it's definitely probably became not cutthroat, but like, we all know, right? Like, we know that one of us is potentially going to get left out of a ride, or 2 of us, or whatever. And we know that we're competing against those guys week in and week out for our livelihood now. So it has changed the dynamic, I think, a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we still all get together, literally just before this, we all sit down and we're going through Iowa stuff together and things like that. So we still know that at the end of the day, us helping each other out is only going to boost the performance of all of us. And we need to do that to kind of show our worth. So yeah, I think that it's been a cool dynamic, truthfully, just getting to be around those guys and be around a group that is all relatively the same age as me. And even from the experience standpoint, we're all kind of the same, where in the past, I never really had that as far as teammates go. So it's been a lot of fun.
Have there been any current or former drivers who you've kind of leaned on maybe for a little bit of advice on how to approach this period and kind of some of the advice they gave you?
Yeah, I would say, the one guy that I have talked to quite a bit is Eric, at Amarola. Me and him, just especially the last 3 or 4 years, became pretty close. And just talking to Eric and just bouncing ideas off of him of how to approach things. He's been through different transition periods of his life and driving for different teams and things like that. So, I called Eric and just asked, different things, really. There was all kinds of advice he gave me. But, I think the biggest thing from Eric's side of things was, don't change who you are. Don't change what you're doing. Just trying to, get something new, stick to Chase Briscoe and keep being Chase Briscoe, and don't try to act like somebody you're not. And you know, if teams want you, they're going to want you because you are Chase Briscoe and not some, you know, guy you're posing to be like. So that's been one thing I would say that kind of stood out is, you know, not changing who I am, not changing the process of the things I go through. And, you know, if that's enough for a team, then it's enough. And if it's not, it's not. But, you know, I'm not going to change who I am, just trying to, you know, get a job in a sense.
Thanks, Chase. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Claire B. Lang. Hello, Claire. We had you on camera, then you went off camera, but you're still muted.
All right,
There we go.
let me turn the camera on.
There.
Okay, so the media platform has changed a lot, and you can see it right before your very eyes. How has it changed for drivers looking for jobs or the job market? Or, you know, obviously pay is a lot different, but what has changed? What is it like, and how is the platform different in the current state of NASCAR?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely different in a sense of, you know, now, you know, the social landscape makes a difference, right? You know, how many followers you have is a big thing on how sellable you are and just how attracted people are to you. So it is different. You know, I think 15 years ago, nobody cared how many Twitter followers or Instagram followers you had, but now certainly they do. You know, and for sure the sponsors do. So it has changed, you know, just the landscape of how we do things. You know, has evolved, and just like I'm sure 15 years from now, it's going to be totally different than how we're doing it now. But I would say that is one thing that, you know, growing up racing, you don't really understand just the impact of, you know, just everything you put online is always going to be out there. It's going to live forever. So, you know, there is guys that, you know, I'm sure have stuff that in the past has came back to bite them. And, you know, I think that's where it definitely has changed, just because you have to, you know, really be buttoned up from top to bottom now. There's no weaknesses that aren't going to get shown, you know, especially on the social media side. So that's one thing I would say has been different, you know, and just how important that stuff is to, you know, what we do. You know, essentially, yeah, we're race car drivers, but we're also a marketing company, and to be a marketing company, you have to peak it on social media. So that's kind of what we've turned into.
So Josh Berry said he wants to work with Rodney Childers still. Obviously, you love everyone on your team, but is there a lot of, hey, if I go somewhere, I want to take you, or I know that this guy is the best in the business and everyone is great, but this is a guy I want to work with. Is
Yeah.
that going through your head too, or too early for that?
No, I think it always is going through your head. I mean, if you have a good relationship with those guys, now if you don't have a good relationship with your team, then probably not. But you know, for me, you know, I'm super close to all my guys. You know, like I said, I've been with them for 4 years, and you know, they come to, you know, birthday parties, and we just had our gender reveal a couple weeks ago. You know, nearly all of them were at that. So like, we are a really tight knit group, and you know, for me, that's what I've told all of them. Look, like every team I talk to, I'm going to tell every single one of them that, you know, that I think you guys are top 3 group in the garage. And, you know, the reality of it is I know that this group will never be together again, as far as every individual goes. But, you know, hopefully a couple of them will be able to come and, you know, be a part of whatever I'm doing. You know, just because I think that having somebody familiar to you is always nice when you go to a new situation. But yeah, I mean, the reality of it is, look, like we're never going to be the same group we are now anywhere else, because, you know, no team is going to take the entire group from top to bottom and, you know, fire who they have now. So, yeah, I've just been telling all my guys, look, anything I can do for you guys from a recommendation standpoint, anything, I'll go to bat. I know for a fact that they're, you know, one of the best groups in the garage. So it's a shame that, you know, we're getting, you know, taken apart, but yeah, it's how life is, and I'm gonna do everything I can though for those guys, and try to find them the best opportunity I can.
And given all that, how do you head into Iowa? Is your mindset different? Does it make you nervous? Do you feel like more eyes are on you? Do you feel like you're, you know, trying out for a job? Do you feel like it's the same guy that's confident and you go there? How do you go to Iowa with that?
No, I mean, I feel like every week, you know, at this level, you have to perform week in and week out, right? Like you can't have a couple bad weeks, because then your stock, it's like the stock market. Like one week you're the hottest guy in the sport. 3 weeks from now, you could have 3 bad weeks in a row, and everybody thinks you're washed up and can't drive anymore. So you're always auditioning. You're always, you know, trying to prove your worth. There's just a ton of things that go into it. But yeah, I don't think my approach changes. You know, if anything, I certainly do feel like my back's up against the wall in a sense of having to go perform. But you know, you throw in the job situation, the team situation, Well, not to mention now we're in the middle of this playoff battle, and we went from 20 points above the cut line to now we're 28 behind the cut line, and just in 3 weeks. So yeah, we have to get the train back on the tracks and start performing. And that's the hard thing, I think, at least with our group internally at SHR. The other guys aren't really in a playoff position. Like, we're still racing to make it into the playoffs, where the other guys have to win a race right now. So like, we just have to have every I dotted and T crossed. And that's where, with all the chaos that's going on behind the scenes, has made it a little hard.
Well, good luck this weekend and good luck in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah.
Thank you, Claire. Chase, I got 2 more guys online here who want to ask questions. You got a few more minutes? You good?
Yeah, absolutely. I got as much as you need.
Let's go to Mitchell Brewer. Hello, Mitchell.
Hello. Chase, as somebody that grew up in the Midwest like yourself, how big is it for you to see another track like Iowa in the Midwest get added to the Cup Series schedule?
Yeah, obviously I'm a little biased just at how much I love Iowa Speedway, but I do think just, racing in that part of the country is really good for us. I was just talking about it the other week when we raced in St. Louis. That's such a motorsports hotbed, I feel like, amongst all kinds of different divisions. It's good for the Cup Series to be there and be represented. And I feel the same about Iowa. It's the heart of the Midwest. A lot of motorsports in that area. Knoxville's right down the road. You got the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame, and a lot of guys that have roots to sprint cars are going to be running 25 minutes up the road, on Sunday running the Cup race. So I think anytime we can have that crossover is always good. And yeah, it's another race in the Midwest. For me, I'm a Midwest guy, so I'd much rather be in the Midwest racing than anywhere else, just because I get to see family and friends and things like that. So like I said, I'm probably a little bit biased, but certainly glad that we have another Midwest track on the schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Mitchell. We'll close it out with Dustin Long. Hello, Dustin.
Hey, Chase, golfer Wyndham Clark, U.S. Opens this week in Pinehurst, and he's the defending winner. He was asked the other day about, I guess, kind of the loneliness of golf. And obviously golf's gonna, there's been a lot of talk about mental health and different things like that. And one of the things he said, I want to read a little bit of what he said and get your perspective on it. And he goes, too often, I think players, including myself, get tied up so much in score and outcome. And the game of golf is so frustrating and so hard. There are those really lonely times when you miss the cut, you throw your clubs in the car, you drive off, and you're very pissed off. So yeah, I mean, obviously TV, they typically show the guys playing great. The game seems awesome. In reality, I'd say 80% of the field storms off pretty pissed off after a lot of the rounds. That's just the nature of our game. That's why it's such a mental game. And I wanted to ask you how much of that is almost relatable when you hear that from a driver perspective, since this is another sport where there's only one winner each week, and kind of as you alluded to early, you can be hot 1 week and 3 weeks later you can be washed up.
Yeah, I would say that is spot on. Literally, to what we do. It, every single week, I come in on Tuesdays and I get ranked on my performance, right? And they might tell me I'm a 31st place driver 1 week, and 1 week I might be the second best driver. And, I know internally that, I didn't forget how to drive over the course of 1 week. If I was second last week and now I'm 31st, like I didn't change what I'm doing. But yeah, I think that's the thing about racing too, is that the best guy in the world, say it's Kyle Larson, right? I mean, he loses way more than he wins. And that's very similar to golf. The best golfers in the world lose way more than they win. And it is a hard battle, I think. And, it's probably a little bit easier if you're Kyle Larson and your bad days are still running 5th, 6th, 7th. But, for us, it is challenging. There might be 1 week, look at Darlington. We ran 4th or 5th at Darlington. And, I go to St. Louis the other week and I run 20th something. And it's just like, I didn't just randomly 1 week know how to drive and the other week I didn't. There's just so many circumstances that go into it. And it is frustrating because, especially at the Cup level, all of us are good. I feel like you could take any of the top 25, 30 place guys and put them in the best car that day, and they're probably going to be right there in the top 3 battling for the win. But you get labeled as a guy that isn't good or isn't as good as this guy, when I feel like a large majority of it is the car a lot of the time, especially at the Cup level, just because we are all pretty good at what we do, and we're all normally within a tenth or two. So yeah, I definitely think that quote is very, very relatable to what we do, and it's frustrating for sure. Those days or even those weekends, where I mean, great ones this past weekend. I felt like everything I did, if I did everything perfect, I was going to run maybe 15th. Like we just were off all weekend long, and it's kind of like missing the cut.
So how do you deal with that? How do you, whether that's you've got an internal strength that you're able to deal with it, whether you work with people, or what are the lessons that you've learned to be able to, I guess, go through the ebbs and flows of the ups and downs of this sport and life in general?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, it's my faith, and even, we have a Bible study group. It's me and Michael McDowell and Corey LaJoy and a couple other guys. And, we even kind of talk about this sometimes, how, we're labeled that, what our worth is where we finish on a given weekend. And, I think that's where you just got to know that your real worth isn't, driving a race car and wherever we finish that weekend or where we rank on pit road or whatever. There's a lot more that comes to our worth than that. And that's where I think, just being grounded in that certainly helps. Having a support system, and for me, trying to be the best dad and husband I can be is, extremely important. My son has no idea if I run 30th or win that weekend. Like he's just excited to see me and, being the best I can be at home. I say is a huge part of the balance in my life, especially over these last couple of years where we haven't had the performance on the racetrack, is just trying to perform in other areas and do it to the best of my ability.